Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just talked about some big time things, some superlatives for this upcoming weekend. We got game of the week, underrated game of the week, quarterback battle, which not the best quarterback battle, but definitely the most interesting going on down there in Coral Gables as far as I'm concerned. But let's go ahead and get into the headline catch up. A number of things happened this weekend. We're so focused on the games around here that didn't have a chance to quite talk about them, and a couple of really big news that we'll talk about here in a second. But I think we got to start where everyone wants to start. Dabo Swinney really made the headlines this week, didn't he? During a press conference, he kind of went on a soliloquy, if you want to call it that, rant, whatever you want to. I have it rant here because it was a little bit rantish. But at the end of the day, he went about 13 minutes or so talking about how the team is going to be fine. If they're tired of winning, they can fire me. I'll go to a new place. I'm only 55 years old. I'm not remotely done with this. All of this stuff, just talking about the state of the program and how people are throwing dirt on their name way too early and they're going to be totally fine. And if anyone wants to let him go, he can have a job by next Monday. All of that is true, by the way, to be totally fair. But here's the thing. The question wasn't about any firing ideas. It wasn't about, hot seat talk. It wasn't about a rumor in the building. It was about play calling. It was just plainly, which play would you like to have back in that Georgia Tech game? And he just went. I think he came into that one just a little bit mad at something he saw maybe online or maybe he heard over the airwaves, whatever, and he wanted to get that off his chest. And he kind of just fitted in wherever he could find it. So it was a very weird situation. There's no doubt about that. He took a lot of different perspectives in that moment and went on a very, very long rant. There's no two ways about that. But at the end of the day, his position is very, very simple. He is a victim of his own success. He was incredible for not a million years. He was incredible for a very long time. Since he's gotten to Clemson, he has done things there that I think a lot of their fans did not know was possible at Clemson for a very, very long time. He is pretty much that program at this point. He has built it up. He has done incredible things, won the conference 8 out of the last 10 years, been to the CFP 7 out of the last 10 years, which he was more than happy to point out during this rant. But at the end of the day, he is a victim of his own success. He is in a position where you did so incredibly. You took down Nick Saban. You won 2 national titles, and everything was rolling for Clemson, and things have tapered off. And you've missed the mark a little bit. You haven't used the portal. You've gotten criticism for that. You haven't, maybe utilized NIL to the degree that you can. You've gotten crap for that. A lot of people have it's just been slowly kind of sliding down a hill. Not necessarily aggressively. You're still one of the top teams in the conference. You won the conference last year, of course. Everything is relatively fine around Clemson. Doesn't change that it's gotten a lot worse. And the reality of that is, I get it can be frustrating for coaches where you have this ridiculous line of success, and then anything less is not good enough. It's the same reason why an Alabama team that won the SEC and got to the CFP and lost on a heartbreaking goal line stand, that was a really disappointing season for that team because it was Nick Saban, and they won national championships over and over and over again, and they've done so many incredible things that was not remotely what they wanted that season. But at the end of the day, you can't argue with fans for wanting what you've delivered to them. You have given them a national title. You have given them the expectations that now live at Clemson, and they're good expectations. Yes, they're tough to live up to. Yes, they're really, really tough to find your way to that mountaintop over and over and over again, and there's going to be blips on the radar. No doubt about that. The difference here, and the thing that I think everyone keeps coming back to, and the reason that maybe they don't give Dabo as much leeway as they would give some other coaches, is we know what the problem is. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what the problem with Clemson is, and it's as simple as you are talented, you are experienced, you have a number of things going in your direction. There were very obvious holes on this football team, and not even massive holes, just things that needed a little bit of patching or needed a little bit of help, where you have Antonio Williams, you have Bryant Wesco, you have TJ Moore, you have talent. They're still young players. Give them a veteran body. Give them a bigger body on that offense that Cade Klubnik can throw it up to. You lose Jake Burningstool a year ago. Get an experienced tight end that can help you out in the run blocking as well as making plays downfield, because that dude was uniquely important to that offense. Get a running back. Get an Ahmad Hardy. Get a Fluff Bothwell. Get someone that can help out your offense in a big way with the run game so you don't have to rely on a former wide receiver to carry the football. And he's done a great job of it, but it's not going to be enough. On the defensive side of the ball, find a way to help out those DBs just a little bit. You have talent. Avian Terrell is going to be an NFL player. Same thing with Ashton Hampton. But at the end of the day, you need more bodies back there. There are very obvious things with this football team that you just needed a little bit more at. You didn't need to overhaul the roster. You didn't need to undo everything. You just needed a couple of fillers. And he didn't take him. And he took Will Helt. That's the best player on your defense right now. So you're in a position where you have to find a way to evolve the next couple of years, or you're going to be making this rant next year and the year after that and the year after that, because this program, as of right this second, it doesn't look like this is going to be a better team next year. It doesn't look like they're going to build off this, because you're losing TJ Parker, you're losing Peter Woods, you're losing Avian Terrell, you're losing Cade Klubnik. You are not going to be a better football team unless you change the way that you go about business. I think Dabo Swinney is one of the better head coaches in the sport. I think he has done incredible things for that football program. He has built it up to be something that a lot of people, kind of including myself, did not think it was possible of it being. Here's the reality. You either live up to the expectations that you have built up at that program, or you go find some place that's willing to do it your way, which I don't think you're going to find all that well. Now, maybe a school can force him to get into the portal, but if that's the truth, I can't imagine that Clemson has not been trying to get him to do that for the past 3 years. It just hasn't happened. So I don't know fully what's going on at Clemson. It's very hard to know without being in that building and around those people and being able to talk to people. But at the end of the day, this thing can get bad in a hurry. The season is not lost by any means. You are still in a position to make a run in the ACC, get into the ACC title, get into the playoff. As of right now, it's looking very bad, and it could get bad in a hurry. And then at the end of the year, you still have Dabo Swinney as your head coach. He is not getting fired. He is not going anywhere. No one is letting Dabo Swinney go from Clemson, because that's a death sentence for that person's job. But at the end of the day, it could get very toxic over this offseason. And then at that point, Dabo Swinney's had a lot of crap from Clemson fans, some warranted, some not. Maybe he gets up and leaves. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Clemson's going to be fine and find their footing. Doesn't change that if that program doesn't change the way they go about roster building, they're always going to be this team that's just scratching and clawing to get up to the top and can't quite find their way through. So I understand some of it from Dabo Swinney. I very much don't understand some of it. The reality of the matter is, you created the expectations. You can't be mad when people expect you to coach like Dabo Swinney has coached. The NCAA has removed the spring portal from the calendar. It is now going to be a 10-day window in January, from likely January 2nd to the 11th, so right in between the quarterfinals for the CFP and the semifinals. Makes total sense, kind of a good place to put it. Obviously, with the school kind of starting right after that, you kind of have to make it happen right there. But at the end of the day, this is a win. There's no doubt about that. This is a very minor, very small win, because coaches' lives were an absolute nightmare. In December, they had to do absolutely everything under the sun while getting their team ready for a CFP or a bowl game. It was absolutely ridiculous. At least now it's compartmentalized. You're going to get your recruiting class put together towards the end of November, early December. Then you're going to be able to play the playoff at least up until the quarterfinals. Then you got a little bit of a break to do what you need to do in the portal, and usually the teams that are in the semifinals have less to do in the portal than the teams that aren't, obviously. So now you're in a position where, at the very least, these coaches can kind of compartmentalize a little bit more. You don't have to do recruiting for high school the same time as recruiting for the portal. You're able to at least compartmentalize this thing just a little bit. The spring portal is gone. I do want to make a point very clearly. It's kind of been proven that you don't need the portal to leave and go somewhere else. Xavier Lucas did this earlier this offseason, and the whole thing between Miami and Wisconsin has not been worked out as far as I'm concerned in a court of law, but a lot of different things going on with that. Xavier Lucas playing really good football for Miami right now, but he just left school. He just unenrolled from Wisconsin and just enrolled in Miami. That is something they can do. So that is the big time problem here, where you didn't get rid of the spring portal. It doesn't mean guys aren't going to leave their teams in the spring and find a new team. What it does mean is probably that number is going to go down pretty significantly. And that's a big time win. And that's something that I think all of us can get behind, at least in the grand scheme of things. It is a step in the right direction. There's no doubt about that. To me, all of this madness doesn't really end until you get eligibility rules in place where maybe you're less inclined to leave a place because you have 5 years to complete 4 years of college football, whatever that looks like. So if you leave somewhere 1 year and then say you're injured later on in your season, you only get one of those years as a redshirt. You're only going to be able to play 3 years of college football. So I tend to believe that's the way forward. I tend to believe that's the best way to go about this because the eligibility rules and all of that stuff's getting way, way too complicated, and we'll talk about it actually at the end of this. But overall, it's a small step in the right direction. It is not going to fix all of the problems around college football right now, but we'll let it kind of run its course and see how it goes, at least the first time around. Arizona State and Kansas. What are we doing? And it's not necessarily their fault. I want to make that very clear. The Big 12 is probably doing this, and I totally understand, but it sounds like we're going to be setting up a quote-unquote Union Jack series over in London at Wembley Stadium, a very, very prestigious, incredible stadium over there in London. I hate it. I hate it a lot. I hate it with just about every fiber of my being. Here's the thing. I think both these teams and coaches don't like it. I think the Big 12 came to them and they said, we're going to be able to make X amount of money by doing this, which is all well and good, do your thing, and we need you guys to play this game over there. I don't think there was much of a decision on the Arizona State or Kansas side. I don't think it's a terrible, terrible thing for them to do, but at the end of the day, this thing's being played on September 19th. In week 3 of the college football season, they're playing this thing. So that means a couple of different options from that. They can play week 1, have a bye week in week 2, play week 3, have a bye week in week 4. So you have 2 bye weeks, and then you play 10 straight games the rest of the year over 10 weeks. That's ridiculous in a number of different ways. You could play week 1, get a bye week 2, play week 3 in London, and then play week 4 like normal. That's crazy. The amount of travel those guys would have to endure and find their way back is just ridiculous. They shouldn't have to do that. The other alternative is you don't take a bye week a week before and you fly out essentially right after the game on Saturday to get over to London. That's ridiculous. You're putting these guys in a terrible, terrible position to not even give the best product of college football to people overseas that you want to expand the sport to. The reality of the matter is 90% of those stands are going to be filled by ASU and Kansas grads that are from America that had to fly over, spend way more money than they had to go to a less good environment. That's what you're creating, and it's a ridiculous, ridiculous thing. You are not giving these people the product that they want, both on the football field and off of it. This is not what college football is. What college football is, whenever you talk to anyone that loves college football and thinks it's the greatest thing in the world, they talk about stuff that's outside of the stadium. They talk about the tailgating. They talk about the traditions. They talk about the pageantry. They talk about the moments where the fans run onto the field and everyone goes crazy. Those don't happen overseas. None of that can happen overseas. Tailgating can happen, not like you would get at a place like Tempe or even in Lawrence or in Oxford, Mississippi or in Athens, Georgia. There's a way to make this thing a global sport, and the way to do it really is to encourage people that are coming from other countries to go to college football games on campus, because that's what college football is. You are watering down a sport that already, in some respects, is watered down comparative to the NFL. Now, I love college football far more than the NFL, but the reality of the matter is, London people have seen what the NFL looks like. You're going to show them a watered-down product in a worse environment, in a place where 90% of the people would have been there anyway and been in a better environment in the United States. It doesn't make sense. You're not doing the thing that you think you're doing, and you're using money, or you're getting money, and you're losing your fans. The point of this game is to cater to the fans as best you can. The Big 12 has done a great job with that. They're doing WWE and the Friday night before big-time games next year. That's great for the fans. That's great for those communities. That's great for all of those moments. And then you do this, and it's not for the fans. It's actually very, very harmful to the fans and the players and the coaches to have to logistically figure out how they're going to play a game 8-10 hours away on a plane in week 3 of the college football season. It doesn't make sense. It never made sense. I don't get it. I don't care if it's week 0 or week 12. Why are we playing games overseas? It doesn't make sense. There's a way to globalize the sport without you playing games in other countries and having lackluster, lame environments that no one really cares about. Find a way to do this better. Find a way to get other fans involved. If you have to, get fans to come on over, get a plane to bring fans over and give them a experience at Clemson, South Carolina, or at Baton Rouge, Louisiana. That's the moment. That's how you get this thing globalized, because that's when people really fall in love with what makes the sport special. A lot of that doesn't follow you over the sea. The Florida running back coach Jabbar Jalouk has been suspended for 3 games after an altercation in the Miami game. Yeah, this one was fair. There's no doubt about that. Frankly, I think there could be an argument that he should have gotten something more punishable. But at the end of the day, I think 3 games is totally fine. Made a massive mistake. I'll leave it at that. I just think it's one of those things that if you saw the video, I think 3 games is. I think he's okay with 3 games in the grand scheme of things. I think he understands he made a mistake, and right now Florida did not need bad press. This did not help by any means. But at the end of the day, he'll be back after 3 games, and we'll see what Florida looks like when he comes back. Bryce Anderson is healthy after a very, very scary situation in the Notre Dame game. Kind of got hit in the back by one of the Notre Dame players and was carted off the field. Was put on a stretcher and was carted off the field, immediately taken to a local hospital. He sounds like he is healthy. He's healthy and kind of back on the road to recovery. What that looks like, how long he'll be out, is entirely up in the air right now. It's obviously a very, very scary injury, a very interesting, or a very hard to fully diagnose injury until you start getting into recovery and figuring out how it feels and all of that different stuff. Plenty of work ahead for Bryce Anderson, but a uniquely talented kid and a kid that absolutely deserves to be on the football field for what could be a very special year for the Aggies. So really hoping he gets back on the football field very soon. Uniquely talented, a guy that absolutely will play on Sundays. Great news that he's finally recovering, and we'll see what it looks like down the road. Hopefully we get him back on the football field here pretty soon. The Pavia lawsuit. Now, this has nothing to do with Diego Pavia in particular. There was some talk that he was trying to get a 7th year for himself to go back to Vanderbilt or whatever was going to happen there. He is not. He has said this is his final year of college football. Everyone freaking out about that, kind of including myself in some respects. It is more than fine. Diego Pavia is going to find his way out of college football after this year. That being said, his lawyer is making that argument right now. His lawyer is making the argument about someone coming back for a 7th year, for arguments of you're taking money out of the kid's pocket if they have an NIL deal on the table to come back for another year. The usual arguments that have been kind of made in this time of eligibility rules being up in the air and no one knows what's going on. The reality of the matter is you're opening the door, and that's the problem, because I want kids to enjoy college football. I want kids to stay in college football for as long as they very well please. Here's the reality of the matter. There is a line. There has to be a line in this grand conversation, because unless you are a professional sport and we are totally throwing the college part out of this, which I don't think you're going to get many people on board to do, you got to find a way to keep this at least buffered a little bit, at least contracted is the word I was looking for. Apologies. Contracted just a little bit, where it's not, you have a medical red shirt and a normal red shirt, and you can leave a team and come back for personal reasons if you miss an entire season. It's a very confusing process, and I get you have to be able to meet players halfway. You have to give them an extra year, a red shirt year, or a medical red shirt, whatever that looks like. But the other reality is, we got to keep these things rolling. We're taking opportunities away from young kids that very much want to be on Power 4 football teams, because you have a young kid that's in his 6th or 7th year of college that wants to finally take the leap up from G5. You just got to find a way to kind of rear this in. I think 5 years to play 4 years of college football is the way to go about it. If you miss multiple years during that time, you lose a year, and that absolutely is tough. It won't necessarily lead to perfect things around the board, but it definitely is better than what we got going on right now, where it just feels like guys can stay just about as long as they want, as long as they're willing to take the NCAA to court every single year. So nothing with Diego Pavia, nothing against Diego Pavia, but something to keep in mind as we move forward, because it could very well be something that someone else uses to make an argument to stay a 7th year or an 8th year or a 9th or a 10th, and then you're way past the point of no return. So a lot of different things that are going to go on this upcoming weekend. It's an incredible slate. It's such a slate that I think is going to have a ton to do with what the CFP looks like, especially in those at-large bids. It's going to be incredible to watch all of this unfold. Thank you so much for tuning in to just another edition of Just Another College Football Podcast. Please do like, subscribe, comment to all of the pages. It means the world to me. Really, really love seeing those numbers just continue to slowly rise around the YouTube. Means the world to me every single time I see it. But thank you so much for tuning in. Please do enjoy this upcoming weekend of college football. Going to be downright special, and we'll be back on Monday to break it all down.